Hello, and thank you for watching this regional forecast for the Canadian Prairie. I'm Andrew Pritchard, meteorologist with Nutrien Ag Solutions. As we check in with the jet stream here on this Wednesday morning, we continue to see this flow pattern dominated by this very broad, very large ridge kind of situated over the Hudson Bay right through central Canada and then right into the central United States, and that has kept a steady feed of some very cold air coming out of the north, spilling into Canadian Prairie and then spilling into the Corn Belt of the United States. Now, as we take a look at the flow pattern right now, it's actually this little trough right now embedded with the flow that's going to begin to dive south over the next 24 to 72 hours and amplify, strengthening this flow pattern combined with the ridge just off the coast south of the Gulf of Alaska. Again, just kind of combining forces here to bring in another wave of some very, very cold air to the Canadian Prairie. We can see that here, and that will eventually spill into the Corn Belt of the United States as we head into the early part of next week. So we'll move ahead, looking at the temperatures here, continuing the theme, talking about the very cold temperatures as that dominates the story here all the way from the Canadian Prairie into the Corn Belt of the United States, dealing with some cold right now. We will warm slightly over the next 24 to 48 hours as we end the work week. But starting over the back half of the weekend into early next week, that reinforcing shot of some bitterly cold air that continues to break our color bar. We are going to update this. It's a bad look here, but where you see the white shading, that is where we're expecting temperatures 20 degrees Fahrenheit, at least 20 degrees Fahrenheit, colder than average, and that is going to mean some bitterly cold winter-like air across the Canadian Prairie. Now, the good news, in addition to the snow, or in addition to the very cold temperatures, we're not talking about a lot of snow unless you find yourself in far west central Alberta, getting into perhaps southern Alberta. We can expect some light precipitation falling in the form of some light accumulating snow across generally the entire province of Alberta into the southern half of Saskatchewan, especially as we head through the weekend, but accumulation should be rather light. We will talk about that here in a few moments, but as you head back towards central and then west central Alberta, getting into northern portions of the prairie, we could see some more significant snow accumulations as we head into the weekend. So checking in with the satellite picture right now, looking at the infrared satellite picture, and I want to draw your attention, if you're not already looking there, to the Canadian Prairie. What you're seeing there with that stationary purple and pink color, if I zoom in here, looping the same animation, that's the very cold ground temperatures being picked up by this satellite picture. Infrared satellite, we're looking at cloud temperatures, cloud top temperatures, and the colors here are blending in with the very cold icy clouds in the high level of our atmosphere. So again, this often happens only in the deepest parts of winter, so just some unprecedented cold air that we're seeing coming across the prairie into the United States as we check in with air temperatures right now, waking up with temperatures still below freezing as we head into the mid part of the morning. And again, we are moderating here some over the next 24 to 48 hours, so much colder air does await as we head into the back half of the weekend. Checking in with the radar then this morning, we do have quiet conditions across the prairie, so that is some good news. But again, we'll take a look at the 500 millibar height pattern here with vorticity and heights. And again, I'm going to point out the little trough that kind of rotates through the flow into the Canadian Prairie, amplifying as this next wave of cold. And so as we back things back up, I want to draw your attention right here to this little wave and watch as it dives in from the south and then curves over to the southeast. You'll be able to pick it up much more easily here as it begins to dive in and amplify. Here we see it now kind of taking on that curved shape. We draw that here a little bit more like that. And then as we head into now the weekend, Saturday, starting to see this thing amplify into this big broad trough that in behind it is bringing another wave of some very cold air. Now, as we talk about precipitation, remember we're talking about a very cold, dry air mass that's not supportive of real significant snow. The exception being as we bring some moisture up from the Pacific here up and over the top of the Rockies and kind of wring that out over the Rockies, again bringing the chance for some accumulating snow in the higher elevation areas here near the British Columbia-Alberta border. Some of that will be able to cascade here into the Canadian Prairie here, primarily northwest, north central portions of the prairie in Alberta, with lighter accumulation possible downstream across the southern half of Saskatchewan into southern Alberta. So we'll go ahead and play this loop. What I want you to really notice is, again, we're not drawing deep moisture up from the Gulf of Mexico the way we would with these deeper storm systems, these Colorado lows that brought the heavy accumulating snow several weeks ago. Instead, we're seeing reinforcing shots of this cold, dry air mass pushing the moisture to the south, keeping it kind of locked in here across the southern U.S., while at the same time we are bringing some moisture in from the Pacific, wringing that out here in the form of some accumulating snow across the western prairie. So I'm going to leave the drawings on. We'll just kind of let this play over the next week or so. Again, you see this pattern. There's that surge of, this is that very cold surge of dry air. Arctic dry air as we get into the weekend and early next week. We'll play this once more. Here comes another chance for some moisture coming up over the top, being wrung out in western and southern Alberta as we get into early next week. Of course, we'll talk about that more as we get into next week, but just illustrating the pattern here, reinforcing shots of this Arctic air, not supportive of significant snow, although we will bring some moisture in from the Pacific, bringing accumulating snow to western Alberta. So we can take a look at the precipitation type forecast now that we've kind of given a precipitation forecast without even looking at it. We'll go ahead and we'll play this out, bringing it back to Wednesday morning now, heading through midday, watching this last wave that brought some snow to portions of southern Alberta here over the last 24 hours, getting out of here. We'll be quiet for the next 48 hours or so before another little system comes over the top of the Rockies, bringing some accumulating snow to parts of the prairie here, beginning midday Friday, heading into the weekend. This is when we could see our next shot of some accumulating snow again, primarily in western and central Alberta, but spilling into parts of the surrounding prairie as well. Again, this in advance of that next wave of bitterly cold air. Taking a look at the area that could see some accumulation here, we're looking at the probability of 3 inches of snow, which is roughly 7.5 centimeters. You're looking for the red colors, those higher probabilities. Again, you have to look over toward the Alberta and British Columbia border to find those. Some lake effect snow possible here in parts of central Alberta. But as you get into the southern half of Saskatchewan, getting into the southern half or southern Alberta, as we talk about the primary prairie region here, really talking about lower probabilities, probably just talking about 5 centimeters or less of snow in those areas. And as we take it even higher, looking at the probability of 6 inches or 15 inches or 15 centimeters of snow, you really have to head to far northwestern portions of the prairie here, getting up into west central Alberta. So again, chances for some snow. We will bring some moisture in from the Pacific here, but really you're going to be focused on central Alberta, western Alberta for the more significant snow accumulation chances. Across the rest of the prairie, there will be opportunities for snow showers, generally amounting to 5 centimeters or less across the rest of the prairie. We'll take a look and time out the next wave of cold here, once again looking at the temperature anomaly forecast here from the European model. Again, moderating slightly as we head through the next 24 to 48 hours, maybe seeing things return closer to average as we head into the day on Friday, but Saturday into Sunday, that next round of extremely cold air comes sweeping through the prairie. If you want a little bit of good news, we are seeing some suggestion here as we head into the middle and late part of next week that this ridge could begin to finally shift to the east, with that trough moving off to the east as well. That could bring some warmer air into the prairie. That's what will need to happen to bring some warmer air into the prairie. Now, we've had some trust issues with the long-range models here out beyond a week, so I want to kind of exercise caution on that. We have to kind of stick with the persistence forecast at times, which says, you know, if the pattern is dictating right now reinforcing shots of cold air, we have to kind of go with that until we see some solid evidence that we're going to be breaking that down. So at the very least, we're seeing some light at the end of the tunnel, some hints that as we head into the middle part of next week, perhaps, at least temporarily, breaking this pattern down and getting out of the deadlock of winter here early in November. So now we'll take a zoomed in shot here at Alberta, looking at total accumulated precipitation here over the next 5 days. Just playing this out, the next round of precipitation moving through over the weekend. Liquid precipitation here, talking about 20 millimeters of precipitation or more, kind of in this general area. Elsewhere, looking at about 5 to 15 millimeters of precipitation as you head south of Highway 16. Talking about snow accumulation, this is where we can talk about most of that being wrung out here in the higher elevations along the British Columbia and Alberta border, but certainly in 2 parts of the prairie we could see accumulations getting north of 10 to 15 centimeters here across just a narrow corridor here across parts of central and west central Alberta. Elsewhere, we look at the blue shading here, the light blue shading, we're talking about generally 3 to 5 centimeters, maybe a locally higher amount there, but staying less than 10. Probably most folks in the prairie staying less than 5 centimeters of snow. Now your high temperatures for the day today, topping out, not getting above zero, so topping out in the lower single digits below zero, dropping to about 10 below zero to 15 below zero as you head up towards central Alberta, getting into the Calgary area. High temperatures tomorrow, not awful, getting above freezing across a big chunk of the prairie in Alberta here, 5 to 10 degrees. As you head north where maybe there's some thicker snowpack, talking about temperatures closer to zero. And then as we wake up on Friday morning temperatures above freezing by a few degrees where there is not snow on the ground, where we do have snow on the ground, again, sticking right around freezing. And then check that out, your Friday high temperatures getting into the double digits if you're lucky enough to be in southern Alberta, single digits elsewhere along and south of Highway 16. North of there, you're going to be heading below zero. Now we'll shift off to Saskatchewan and Manitoba, where we're a little quieter in the precipitation department. We'll have to watch for some lake effect snow here across parts of central Manitoba. Otherwise, as we get into the weekend and we watch that storm system come through, really getting the dry end here as we look off towards the east, not getting so much of that Pacific moisture. If you head into far southern Saskatchewan, perhaps talking about 5 to 10 millimeters of precipitation. Elsewhere across southern Manitoba, likely talking about a trace to maybe 3 to 5 millimeters of precipitation. As we talk about snow, a very similar story. Certainly opportunities for snowflakes to be flying as we head into the weekend here across the entire prairie. But across southern Saskatchewan here, south of Highway 16, probably talking about 3 to 5 centimeters of snow. And then as we get into southern Manitoba across the prairie here, probably talking about a trace to maybe a couple of centimeters at the most. Talking about high temperatures then for the day today, right around -5 across southern Saskatchewan and southern Manitoba. Your overnight lows dropping to around -10, give or take a couple degrees. Warming up to right around the freezing mark in southern Saskatchewan tomorrow, warming up to about 2 to 3 below zero across southern Manitoba on Thursday. Waking up on Friday morning with temperatures near freezing in southern Saskatchewan, -5 to -8 across southern Manitoba. And then that warm up on Friday will have the entire prairie south of Highway 16 across Saskatchewan and Manitoba above freezing before bitterly cold air returns. Again, how cold are we talking? We're not entirely certain yet. I don't want to give too many numbers, but it does look like we can expect temperatures around 25 to 30 degrees below zero across a widespread portion of the Canadian prairie as we head into the back half of the weekend and early next week. That is some very early winter air. As always, Eric Snodgrass will have an in-depth look at the evolution of the next 1 to 2 weeks in our Thursday morning ag forecast video, and I will be back to talk about the Canadian prairie on Friday morning. Have a great day.